What's up, gentlemen? How's it going today?
How's it going?
Morning.
Good. Real early for us, midday for you, right?
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting that. Thank you for doing this.
Do you remember yesterday you called me at like 4 a.m. my time?
Was it? Oh, no.
Yes, it was 4 a.m. 4:12 actually. It's a good thing
What, you answered?
No. Well, I have my phone set to like go like do not disturb between 11 and 7 and at night.
Right.
Unless it's like favorite contacts. So
John Simmons.
just well, you're not in that favorite contacts for that reason.
No.
Because it hasn't been the first time you called me earlier like that.
Yeah, I just think you're in the UK sometimes.
No.
I ring you when something just pops up in my head and I'm like, oh, ring Chris. It's like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I always get that when people from overseas will message me at like 3:30 in the morning, and they'll get upset that I'm not responding.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll wake up and I'm like, hey, not in a rude way, but I'm like, it's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. here. Like I'm asleep. Because then they're like, you're not responding to me and not answering my messages, and I'm like, there's 5 or 6 hours between us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to be honest, I talk more to people in the UK than I do in the United States.
Oh, really?
Besides Jason, but
yesterday on the phone you started saying bloody hell and a cup of tea and stuff like that.
I did actually.
Start calling each other mate every time I go, hey mate.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched Benny Hill.
Yeah, and you watched a bit of Benny Hill. Yeah.
Benny Hill, and then Mr. Bean, but that's more of an American.
Oh, I never watched that.
Mr. Bean's great, but Chris
Rowan Atkinson, he's a funny
it's
bastard.
hard to look
He's
at.
a legend. So what you need to do, Chris, you need to do some high-speed recording of you doing your cloud car and send it to Benny Hill music.
It's an idea.
That would be good.
Yeah, I'll do that next time. Yeah. Well, I just got a new camera, so thanks, Jason. Jason hooked me up with a really great camera.
Cool. Nice.
And I'm still learning how to use it. I tried. Yes, I did a little bit yesterday, so I'm gonna start using that for all my build videos, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
I like your new setup. Your like top-down view setup.
Yeah, it's much better because like normally when I'm doing a video, I am either holding it or I have a stand right next to me or in front of me that's like in my way, so it makes it difficult to do shit.
Yeah.
And you got the camera in front of your face, and then you have to like look under what you're doing, so you're not really getting it as good as you'd like to get it.
No, all your best work is done off camera too, because you're worried that it's gonna look crap.
But now it's over top. Yeah.
Well, my idea has been just film everything, right? And then this way you can just speed lapse, all the boring stuff and all the sanding, and then slow it down when you get to the good stuff and the how-tos and
Yeah, but that requires some editing skill, which I don't have at all. So.
Yeah, it takes a little bit, but
it's not that difficult. Once you get it down, it's pretty like ask Jason. I'm a complete idiot when it comes to like how to start doing things.
Oh, one sec, guys. Can I just drop out? I'm gonna come back in again in a sec.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. But like I'm a complete idiot when it comes to computers but I started learning a lot on YouTube. Just watching YouTube videos.
You've picked up, I think, pretty well on the tech and editing stuff. I think it wasn't nearly as difficult or as long as you thought it would be.
No. Now
it's like anything, it's comfort. It's comfort and confidence.
Yeah, now with Photoshop and Premiere Pro editing, I could do it real quick now. Like it would take me hours just to get one step. When I first started, which was, me, I get frustrated when stuff like that happens. Yeah. I start like pulling out what hair I have left in my head, so it's like fuck. But now I'm teaching myself 3D printing because there's some things that I'd like to do. Like I don't want to print a whole model. I don't really want to do that unless it's something cool. I have one STL file I want to print up. We'll talk about that sometime, but just for like spacers or shit that I can't fabricate with my hands, so
yeah,
it's just another tool in the arsenal. And that I'm learning, and I have to learn the laser cutter when I do eventually get one. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, like learning this. I feel like a big boy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that's
literally
good.
yesterday, I spent 8 hours working on those louvers. Like I was in the shop the entire day working on those things.
Really?
Well,
Are they spaced or are they like I know where you pulled them from, so are they just like a dummy space? Like there's a thin fill in, or are they completely see through or
I'll pull up a picture and tell me what you're talking about, because I did save that picture just just to talk about it a little bit, just like the process of doing it. Let me put that up here. Present.
it's funny John made that comment. I didn't realize I wore a hat that much.
You do almost as much as I do.
Usually during the day I don't. I think I just put it on during the live streams. I don't wear it that much.
I wear a hat all day long. Dude, I used to have like a full head of hair. Now, I used to make like until like 10, 15 years ago, I had a full head of hair. So this is what I'm talking about. So this is on the back of notice I cut my finger.
So wait, is this what you pulled from the ship? From the wings?
No.
That's what I was talking about. I didn't know if the wings had like a cast back or if they were like see-through but patterned like this.
Oh, no, it's a solid piece of plastic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is, so everybody knows, I wanted cool shade, right? And I wanted to use cool shade on something, but I don't have it. It's hard to get. So what I ended up doing was I bought some replacement Hasbro wings for a TIE fighter, just $10 on eBay, right? And ended up cutting out the parts of the wings to use as a cool shade pattern. It doesn't have the openings and it doesn't have the angles, but it just has the pattern is what I'm looking for. It's gonna be very hard to see, and it's behind stuff, and it's just like a backing for something else. But instead of me spending $200 on a 2x2 square, I'll use that. So
I might have a swatch you can have.
oh, now you tell me.
I had it for the Sandcrawler, but I need to keep some of it for the Ned B because there's a tiny swatch of it on the Ned B. But if I've got some left, I'll measure it and just see how much I've got.
Okay.
Chris answered, brother. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry, dude. After that long, elaborate chat.
When in doubt, just ask John Simmons.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
But no, this is what I'm working on. I guess we'll start talking about like what we're working on. I'm working on this blue Macquarie concept cloud car, and this is for the middle engine section. It's just there's only one picture, one slight angle of just a partial piece of the engine in the painting, so you kind of can do whatever you want. So what I just wanted this. I just used a bunch of T-strips and glued them together, and then wrong way. And then glued them together and cut out those middle sections and sanded the edges. I love doing this.
That's really clean work. Very Snowspeeder-esque.
This was very satisfying, rounding these edges. I don't know why. I enjoyed it. So it took me a long time because I'd never done it before, and I love how it looks. So
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm enjoying this build.
Little choppy to my standards, but it looks good.
Man, you should have seen it before I bought that file. Like these lines were not straight because I was using a little 1/4-inch file and trying to get in there. It's like, fuck this. I'm going out to Home Depot and get myself a real good flat file that's like 1 inch.
Keeping that rounded finish and everyone to be the same as the next one next to it must have been a nightmare.
No, actually, it wasn't that bad. I just took a file, went like sideways, and just kind of went and
you don't use the different shape files, Chris? They have like a whole pack of round ones, squared ones, triangular ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole shit.
That'll give you the perfect round. Yeah.
No,
those teas are on everything. You've done well to keep within like the lineage of the films, like the models anyway. You know.
Yeah, these are teas you sent me for the
Turbo Laser. Oh no,
Turbo Laser before you sold me your Turbo Laser.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun scratch building this. Like I wouldn't want to 3D print this because it was just a lot of fun building it.
No.
You know, so
yeah, that's awesome, man. Looks really nice.
Yeah. So I both you and Jason noticed on my my blue McQuarrie cloud car the circles on the back of the engines, right? And
yeah,
I was gonna leave it open because I kind of liked it looking open better than with those plates on the back. And Jason's like, "No, dude, you gotta put those on. It's not the same without it." So I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't feel like making it." And blah blah blah. He's like, "No, dude, here's a perfect kit part for it, right?"
How random was that too? It was like a impromptu. It was in the morning, and I was just like, boom.
Yeah. It was on the 223, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it actually fit in that spot perfect. I mean,
That's meant to be.
Like a glove.
I could friction fit that sucker right in there, and it wouldn't move. Like it was.
1 sec. Sorry, I've got to drop out again. Sorry.
See you, John.
See, now that I didn't even realize when I was recommending the piece, I had no idea it was going to be a perfect fit. And then when you said, I lined it up and it went right on. I was surprised to hear. Yeah.
Like it wasn't even. I'll see if I could bring that picture up. It wasn't even. I didn't have to trim it. I didn't have to sand it. I didn't have to do nothing. It was freaking spot on, and I couldn't believe how. It's almost like you almost wonder. Okay. Like we've talked about this before. Okay. So even that concept blue cloud car that has never been made into a model that we know of, right? Pardon me, I got stuffy throat.
Same here. It's why if I drop off, it's because I'm drinking something.
It's never been, it never been a model that we have seen, right? But something like this happens, and you're just like, it's like a perfect fit. It looks exactly like it looks exactly like the picture. God, where's that picture? I know I sent it to you not too long ago. There it is. It's like a perfect fit. It can't possibly be anything else. But there was never a model made of it. Here we go.
I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because if you take a moment to think about it, it's very true that although there's no model that exists of that we know of, we've done that previous episode where we've shown the ships, and it's known now that it wasn't like McQuarrie painted something, then they went to the workbench and made what he painted. He was just like any artist using a reference and painting the images based off the already previously built references. In most instances, not all. Right, because a lot of it preceded, the model shop even being set up, but a majority of it was filled in after the fact. So you're right. It makes you wonder: did he just manipulate the color in the painting? Was there a model at some point that was in that style? Because, as you mentioned, although I said, "Hey, this would be a great piece to use," and then when you had called back and said, "Oh, it's a perfect fit, fits like a glove," the kind of bells went off, like. Just as you mentioned, well, is that something that already pre-exists? Because it's one of those things where you just never know, right?
I have no idea. Like I said, this is what I was talking about, John. I could push those in and not glue them, and they would just stay. They stay just fine.
Dry fit, yeah.
It's completely
perfect.
Bizarre.
Yeah, that's really nice. The whole thing looks like a carburetor in its sort of shape, anyway. Like the Ralph McQuarrie sort of picture. But yeah, I love that. That, as I said to you, on Messenger, Chris, that sub assembly you've made there is a model of its own. It's lovely.
Oh, it was a lot
really
of fun.
Nicely done.
It was a lot of fun, and I've said before. I think I said it in my videos or something. Kit bashing on your own, like not if you're not following a picture, right? If you're not following something that's already pre-existing or mapped out for you, like designing something like this, it took me a long time to figure out. All right, well, this is going through hundreds of boxes, not hundreds, but you know what I mean, tons of boxes to find the right part that's going to look right on here. Is it not? It's not easy. It really is.
No, it gives you more respect for the RLM guys making, false, real world things. In the Star Wars universe, pipes leading to pipes to like units to like airflow things. All that sort of thing. It has to, even though they're not real, it still has to give the impression that it's a working thing.
And I don't know of too many instances on any of the ships that they build where something looks out of place. It's just like, there's times where
there's nothing that stands out awkwardly. I don't think.
No, I mean there's times where I put something on there. I'm like, that just don't look right. It just doesn't. But for them to do it on that scale, that many ships, that intricate, it's truly and to come right from their freaking brains. They're just there popping things on. They're like, oh, this will look good. This will look good. I really found an appreciation for how difficult that is, just building this little 2x1 piece of that I built here.
It's funny. All I keep thinking about sometimes is as they get more comfortable and more use out of certain kits, right? Because you tend to, when they talk about making the destroyer,
I remember watching Lee Ralph build.
Are you a little behind us, John? I think he is.
I think he's a little delayed, yeah.
Are you delayed, brother? Jason, we're gonna have to send him some internet.
We are.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit behind.
Why don't you drop out and come back in? Reset it. He's way back.
While he's doing that, I'm going to go back to what I was saying, which was, so we take for granted, the time and presence that we're in. Okay, we don't stop to think about, thinking backwards. We don't do that on any level.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to leave and come back in.
All right, go ahead, brother.
One of the interesting things is there was no internet. There was no going online and ordering what you needed, right? No. So think about it. If they got comfortable with a certain kit or a certain set of parts that they, thought really felt, had a continuous or continuous use or consistency across the board with different ships, they would go into the local shop here and cleaning them out. They were going in and grabbing all the 312Ts off the shelf, all the 312Bs off the shelf, all the, Tyrells off the shelf. And, think about it. These model shops probably couldn't stock this stuff fast enough. Now, I'm sure some of them coming from an industrial background were able to go through catalogs and order larger amounts. But I do, see them running out and kind of just cleaning off different shelves and grabbing what they can. And then you run into this one situation where that kit that you're comfortable with or the kit where all the parts isn't available. So you start grabbing different things. Right. And that's where you have that, those weird scenarios where, you're looking at a McLaren M71 and only 2 pieces are used out of the kit on one ship. Because it's this is all that's available.
Right. Plus, don't forget, shipping things back then was months, right?
It was slow-mo. Yeah, it was snail mail for sure.
Not 2 days
today.
If it goes anywhere past 2 days, I'm like, where the fuck is it? Where the fuck is it? Where the fuck? You know what I mean? I just realized I had the chat off, and I just took a look. There's a couple people talking to us. We got Parminder saying hello. Hi, gents. Nick, how's it going, brother? Robin, how you doing? Thanks for joining us, Robin. Who is that? Is that somebody we know?
I don't know.
John Stewart.
John Stewart?
Yeah. Hey, John.
Oh, cool. Hey, John. How's it going?
Good morning.
And old Padawan. Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't be shooting the ships without John freezing up.
I'm so sorry. Since I've been on here, I've had 2 guys come to the door about work. The postman's been, My fucking internet keeps freezing up. So
Yeah.
I do apologize.
So why don't we get to you, John? What do you got going on what do you got?
Jesus, I don't know what I've got next. I think I've literally got, that's my customs letter for some ships I've been waiting for like since November that have been sent overseas on a boat.
You still didn't get it?
No, I got that. I got your one, but I just
No.
haven't got the. These were like 2 other Yamatos and I don't know what it was, Musashi or something, but like the big Hasegawa ones, the huge monster ones, you know. So I need that for the Neb B. But I finished the B wing.
Now listen, John. That B wing turned out beautiful. It really did.
Oh, really?
I really.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm working on a B-wing right now, and I was actually following your build. It's beautiful. It's really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Amazing.
You can save a lot with the paint, right?
A little bit, yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, I said I'm not going to sell this. This is going to be in my collection. I really regretted selling the Frank and Mo original one. I was going to keep it, and then life got in the way, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to have to sell it. So that's gone now. And then I think what else? I sold something else. I sold the Interceptor. That went. And
let's talk about that for a second, John. So Jason and I were discussing that yesterday while I was at lunch, sitting there at the restaurant. We were discussing the foundation mist that you do. Okay.
Yeah.
And you had told me about a year ago. In fact, it was a year ago when I made CC's Vader X1.
Yeah.
I had it all done, and you're like, "Did you mist it with foundation?" I'm like, "No, should I?" Because it's a very like tannish or yellow,
creamy sort of like yeah.
I was like,
well, it's foundation. It's just like makeup, right? It's just that foundation.
Exactly.
I know you use a lot of that, Chris.
I do. Anytime my beautiful skin. But yeah, like, and I was like, John, are you sure? Like, do I want to put this over top of blue? And you're like, yeah, try it. And when I did it, it was beautiful. Took it to a whole nother level that to me, at least, it gave it a dusty look, like it was sitting on the shelf.
I mean, we don't know if it was foundation used. It probably wasn't, but whatever it was, it makes it look right. So,
right.
And that's all we care about, right?
And looking at your pictures, your close-up pictures of, like, you know, where the foundation is sprayed on there. I mean, I saved those pictures, by the way. I saved most of the pictures, like the B-wing pictures you put up. I saved them. The TIE Interceptor, I saved it. And I was talking to Jason about it. I think I mentioned to Jason a year ago to try it on his, and I don't know if you ever did you, Jason?
Not on the TIE, no.
No.
On the regular TIE, I didn't.
No. And I'm like, you got to do it. It's mind blowing how it changes the look of the ship. And looking at the close up pictures of your Interceptor, like you could see it like seeps into the corners, and it looks amazing. Like,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, well, that sort of goes back to my old military ways of trying to get all the nooks and crannies filled with dust. Yeah. So I can't remember exactly. I mean, that's a good year or two ago, maybe even more. No, it was like three years ago I painted that. So I think it was a case of just laying down a dust coat of the foundation, and I think I had a cotton bud with enamel thinners or a rag, and I was just like lifting it off very quickly.
Okay.
And that it was like applying a traditional wash in the recesses, but using an airbrush to do it.
Right.
So you'd go around the recesses with the airbrush, and then with the damp thinners, you just take it off. So all the raised areas would be clean, and the recesses would be filled with the foundation.
Well, I'll tell you what, it looks amazing.
I think it came up, Chris, because I said you think that's a combination of misting and shelf dust, or all misting. And I wasn't being a smartass. I didn't know if like there was generally, because you know sometimes when people snap quick pics, you're not gonna like clean it up until you actually package it up and send it out. So I thought, like, in the sense of just taking a couple of pics before he got packed it up, I said, oh, do you think that's a combination of both? And he said, no, I think it's all foundation. And then that's what kind of put the light bulb off in my mind to be like, you know, maybe I should try it, because I really do like the way it settled very softly and the scribed lines and inside some of
but
the nuances.
Jason, you're right to ask that because I've got a lot of shelf dust. Let me.
Well,
Yes.
it's natural, right? Because when you're working and moving things around, yeah. I mean, it's normal to think. There's times where I look at some models and I'm like, oh, that actually looks pretty cool. Sometimes with my helmets, I'll purposely put a helmet down. Like, but I've done it with Boba Fett where I'm working or spraying, and I'll let some of the dust and overspray just kind of very, very ever so softly hit the top of the helmet, and I'm like, oh, that's some good weathering.
By the way,
I remember
John,
when,
I'm still cleaning dust off of some of mine. So,
well, the ones I sent you.
yeah.
I remember it went at the 2016 celebration. I think it was in London when I went and watched. When I saw Guy Cohen's work first hand and Lee Stringer's, there was a story that Lee was, as Guy was unboxing his models, I think Lee was going around behind him with like a duster or like a brush and trying to blow the dust off. And Guy was like, "What are you doing? Leave it. I want it to be filthy like the ILM models."
Yeah, exactly. We were saying that yesterday, Chris. Remember? And I was like, I might even lopside one of my wings and just let the dust settle, and because it gives it that look.
I'm like Jason. I'm not gonna make one of my wings crooked.
I like. Well, I was just So John, I was saying to Chris, I said at this point. Oh, go ahead. I think you guys both cutting up, or is it me?
I can still hear you.
Okay. So basically, I was saying a large portion of my collection was looking really janky and wonky, and because as it gets closer to production, or screen used in that level found parts, everything just looks messy and sloppy. Nothing has that mass-produced, mechanistic look to it anymore. Almost nothing does.
Yeah, you got to keep it loose and rough.
Yeah, I've now grown an affinity to that look and that style. When things are too clean, it irks me a little bit. It kind of throws me off.
Yeah, I mean the build has to be clean and perfect as much as you can get it right, but the paint job, that's if you can't get it 100% accurate, you got to get that feel of ILM, or if that's what you're trying to portray. There's nothing wrong with doing your own style, but just having that, loose, airbrushed on look, it works wonders. Less is more.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of going about it, because it's weird. I was able to tackle the builds. I mean, I've always had a strength with painting, but it was more from like an artistic perspective, like painting on canvas.
Yeah.
And then when I was teaching Chris certain things, like he definitely has his own style of painting, which I think is fantastic. But when I was teaching about like opacity and mixing whites in and things like that, I realized like, okay, this may not necessarily translate well, although they're good techniques, it may not translate well over to the models. Yeah. And then from there, I was able to find and figure out certain things, because they really did have that sort of rush to the stage and film it look, right? It wasn't intentional per se, but you start to really pick up on that after a while, because I noticed guys who do like tank builds or World War II military builds, there's a certain style of weathering that goes with that. And when you see a model, although it's really nicely painted, you can tell, oh, this is somebody who normally works on like planes and tanks. Absolutely. Because they kind of carry that style over. Yeah.
I really miss that. I miss that type of weathering. Really, it's I used to like shading on the side of tanks and putting like a dark yellow down, then putting an oil wash over it, and then I'd put like the filters with the with like raw umber and all that sort of thing. Then I'd spray on the dust on the tracks and everything. I loved that process, but it was weird completely losing that and just using the airbrush alone to do something entirely Star Wars like. It was like when I first spoke to Guy, and he was like, the nothing's pre-shaded, don't pre-shade it, everything's layered on top over each other. So it's a base coat, it's a mist coat, it's blast streaks, it's a push around with the airbrush with it loosely thinned, all that sort of thing. It was daunting to just have an airbrush in your hand and do the whole thing with an airbrush. But it's not as hard as you think, is it? When you start putting those into action and start using those old 70s ways, there's a reason why they did it. It looks realistic. Strange, isn't it? Like it's an out of this world project that you're making with a real world look to it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the steps, right?
Chris
Another thing that I've said in the past is, it's one thing to be told, right? Like you said, guides giving you feedback and, do these steps. It's one thing to be told that. When you're able to physically see and handle a piece, it really changes that perception and puts it, it kind of, puts it into that strong point of view. So it wasn't until I had certain pieces in front of me that I actually used, and I mentioned this before, emulating that work or sort of copying that work, right? By being able to like reverse engineer, oh, this is how this was done. That's what they meant by do it this way. That's what this means. And seeing it, it really allows you to take it a step further and apply it.
Yeah, definitely.
I know this is topically applied here, John, but this looks fantastic.
Yeah, this is
So
this is amazing.
to hide the fact that it looks topical, I had to mist that back with SPE lettering, I think grime, a few others, just to hide the harshness of the outside of the the chipping, to make it, because it's raised, right? It's not chipped away, so you're going to try and hide that.
Yeah, that turned out stunning.
I noticed you even got the little scratched off what's it called there on the bottom on the blue engine piece.
What, the decal?
The decal, yeah. Because that's the one I see. That's the one I see missed all the time.
Yeah.
This one here?
No.
Yeah.
This.
No, go back. Yeah.
The decal.
Which one?
The decal on the that part there is from the Tomcat, isn't it? F14.
Mm-hmm.
That's the long strip, but it's cut down short.
It's got the yellow banner over it, but it's kind of. I wonder if that got scratched off when they were filming, but that's how it sits as is. It's kind of intentionally.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that wasn't provided in the Decal sheet that Steve Neeson.
I didn't think so. I wanted to ask you about that. I didn't think it would be, because it's such a random piece, and a lot of people don't see it in a lot of the references either.
No.
Now, John, can I ask about so the wings on this aren't static; they actually move and open. Now, is that part of the kit, or is that something that you had to? Was that like a bespoke made thing that you did, or was it built into the armature in the kit?
Okay, so the middle part, the Hasegawa part, I don't know if it's a tank chassis or whatever it is, but they're all filled resin. So you have to drill the holes through the resin, and then you drill the holes through the wings, then you put your bar in, and they should open and close. So you do have to do it yourself, pretty much. And
what does anything hold it like in place, or is it just one of those things where you kind of set it and let it be?
It's just friction. But first it was too loose.
It's tight enough where you make it tight enough so that makes sense.
Yeah. You've only really got to worry about the one underneath staying up, because the one on the top will flop down anyway. but they're both tight enough to move up and down.
Now, do you ever, where you do have access to a lot of kits that you collected over the years, and you're working on a kit like this, it's just something that came up in conversation with me and Chris yesterday. Do you ever take some actual parts and, when you know what it is, and throw it onto the model, kind of like hybrid style, or do you just leave the kit as is?
Do you know what? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm like, this is going to sound bad. I don't know how to say this. But you just think, if a resin kit isn't amazing, you think, why am I wasting really nice kit parts on something this bad? I'm just going to clean it up best I can and just finish it. But then something like the B-Wing, where it's a rare model, not many people have it, you've got the kits to hand, and you look at them compared to the cast ones, and they're night and day different. And I did use quite a lot of my own kit parts. Even in the cockpit there, by his head, they're from the Ark Royal. So they're that's on the Ark Royal kit.
Okay. So you did go in and add It makes
So
sense though, because I think Chris, you had said you wouldn't want to use your own pieces on a resin kit. I sometimes look at certain ones as a base, right? When you have certain kits that aren't too busy, I feel like you can take the base of it at minimum. You have that work done for you, clean the
Yeah.
surface off completely. And so, I mean, this has a lot of stacking and styrene. Technically, I mean, it's baked into the mold, but otherwise it would have been layered. But if you have something that's not as complex as this, I do like the
Yeah.
the process of shaving everything off and putting the greeblies on, so long as you said, they match
Yeah.
in
I mean,
size and whatnot. But
you're not going to go and remaster an X-wing, are you? You're not going to go and remaster a
Yeah.
Y-wing. You're going to get the base of it, and if it looks clean enough and the parts fit, you'll leave it. But then if you've got decent kit parts that replace all the resin ones, go for it. It'll make it look
Yeah.
infinitely better.
yeah, I mean, like I said, Jason, I specifically buy these kits for specific ships like Sandcrawler and such and such. But like, I'm always afraid that I'm going to use a kit part that I'm going to need later on. I'm going to have to go and spend $100 to buy this kit part. You know what I mean? Just for one
Yeah.
part. You know, so that's pretty much why. And then again, sometimes you run into the case where the kit, the resin mold isn't very well done. Like the
No.
kit part might look like total shit, and it'd be more work to try to fix it rather than just say, okay, I'll just go get the kit part off the shelf.
Exactly. Like with the Slave one, when that came in, the Flak 38 parts, quite a lot of those are missing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said to Steve, I was like, look, I know I was quite new to like buying kits then. This was 6 years ago, I think, or maybe even longer. I can't remember. But and I was like, yeah, some of these Flak 38 parts are missing, and he was like, just buy the kit. The kit's like $8.
Yeah.
you get multiples in that kit of like, and I was like, really?
Like 10 of them.
It'd be cheaper for me to send you $8 so you go and buy a kit on eBay than it would be get them cast, send them in the post,
Exactly.
while you wait for them, and they'll be better anyway.
And you think sometimes maybe even like model garage kit builders take that into account and think, all right, this is an $8 kit. It's not worth me casting this thing.
Yeah.
You know, like especially that one, the Flak is just,
Yeah.
you could buy that all day.
You're never going to have a model that doesn't have that on it. You know,
No.
you're going to use that. You're going to use that kit over and over again.
I love these copper tubes under here too.
Yeah, so I made them too short. They should have been longer.
Okay. I'll tell you, I've always loved the B-Wing. I've always loved the B-Wing, but after you made it, it became higher on my priority.
Yeah, it's not the easiest build at all. It's a pig of a
I was just gonna say, this is proving to be probably one of the more challenging builds I've done so far.
Yeah,
I'm really running into a lot of roadblocks with this thing, and it's tedious, man. It is so tedious. I mean, granted, I'm doing it from kits, but you know, it's a lot.
I admire you for doing that, Jason. That's props to you for taking on the challenge of building that from scratch. It's definitely not easy.
I was watching your video on this blue, okay, and like it was when you first pulled out that blue, the bright blue, what is it called? That
light blue 55.
Yeah. I'm like, that can't possibly be the color. Like, I'm just thinking to myself, it looks more like Stormy Sea or something like that.
Yeah.
And just the way how you ended up doing it, what did you like? Multiple layers of it, just darkened it like this, right?
Yeah, I think if you go in first with it just over the reefer white, it's going to be too bright.
Right.
But I lay it down. It was because again, guy replicates a paint from that era. Now, if you got 6 light blue 55 float quill bottles, one would be dark and it would go right up to one and be light because their consistency at float quill weren't good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was no real quality control, I don't think, back then in the shades. So it's quite feasible that when Bill George painted this, he had one of the darker issued bottles of light blue 55 from float quill. But the point is that the color was there. So all I had to do was drop in a few like drops of the black just to bring the harshness of that brightness down, and it worked. Or you
it worked well. It's
you could
definitely well
alternatively spray it on a darker panel and then bring it up without taking the masking off.
Well, honestly, I mean, I know who got this, so but I don't know if you want to say who got this from you. But
I'm okay saying it, but I don't know if he'll.
Yeah. We'll let him decide.
So
what
John,
he wants to say. You got a lucky piece.
Where I'm feeling a little overwhelmed is kind of like the Falcon. I mean, not in size or scale, right? But basically, once you have all your parts, you still have to go in and make all these cuts, right? All these little plates that now stack on top of. So that's the part I feel like I'm gonna really just like, get a little overwhelmed with. But
well, yeah, but then. I mean, look at Stuart Brown's paint build on the Falcon. On the all his panels he cut out with card first, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So he's not wasting styrene, because styrene gets expensive, man. It's got more expensive since I've been modeling. It's just it's pricey.
I do that all the time.
Make some templates out of thin card.
Yeah, if I wanna fit something, I'll even take just a piece of paper at first and lay it in there, right? And get the dimensions I want. You could measure it, but sometimes just a physical piece is actually more easy. Just take a piece of paper, lay it in there, cut it or mark it where you want it, cut it, fit it in, see if that's gonna work, and then come back with a harder, like put it on your styrene and trace it out.
Absolutely.
The other issue I'm having, right, Chris, and that's definitely a good process. I've implemented that a few times, but so okay, we're looking at this cockpit, and eventually you can get to a point where you say, okay, this is part A, this is part B, this was scratched, this comes from this kit, this is cut down to this size. But with those stacked sheets, right, as you start getting into it, it's like, okay, well, if I add this stacked piece of styrene on the side, how many little notches do I cut in? How many little circles do I, nick into it? And it's like, the reference for that to make sure that each one is exacting in style and aesthetic is difficult, because you can see a part and not be able to see the other side or see a different angle of it and know what part it is or how much of it was cut off for the most part. But with the styrene, if you don't have a full glance of that particular piece, then you don't know, does it have 4 notches in it? Does it have 5 notches? And I think that's
you're right. Yeah, because if you keep going up, Chris, I think it was that part of the B-wing, but flipped the other side. There's very little ref of that area. So I don't know if you'll get to see it.
See, at some point, you're going to have to take some creative liberty, which I assume happened even with the kit.
So the back there, if you go back, Chris. So like at the back of that sort of ridge, keep going back, like there. Yeah, there's hardly any ref of that.
As it goes like this.
Yeah, so you're quite right, Jason. Trying to find a panel that is accurate to that area is going to be hard.
So you just got to go with like, this fits, this looks close enough in certain areas, and then just work with it.
I feel like I've seen like a gallery even on Archive X. I think there's one of like every single angle of this thing, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that's the Jason Eaton pictures from when Master Replica went into the archives and took pictures of it. Okay. And they're the best out there. They're the ones that I used for this. But even then, some of them he took from quite a high angle, and the top wing is cast a shadow over it, and you can't quite see.
Okay.
That's what I was using for some of the reference of like practicing and sizing, and just it threw me off a little bit. But yeah, this is fantastic. I really love the way that this came out, and this is quite a. I mean, you must have been going ham on this, because this is quite a quick turnaround, right? I mean, you must have this thing out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I got that out to take that away from the stress that I was going through with the. I think I was working on the Neb B, I think, or no, it was a Star Destroyer. Something was like just getting on at me, and I was like, I just need to have a break. And
John, it was waiting for our package to show up for you to work on it.
It might have been.
Did it arrive? By the way, did it arrive?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it must be caught that Christmas rush. Yeah.
Well, and then the post went on strike, so there could have been a number of factors, but don't worry. I really appreciate you two helping me out. I honestly do. Thank you. But yeah, I thought I'd get the B-Wing done as a nice, easy project, but it was a complete opposite. It almost hit the wall a few times.
I like this with the piping and that's.
Yeah, that's always tickled your fancy, Chris. That's something you always respond well to is the little like the wires running down and
yeah, piping. So here's a question for you. Okay, so this tie decal on the side here.
Yep.
Is there another B-Wing that has a different decal there?
Yeah, the Archive X logo.
Archive X logo, yeah.
Okay, so what is that? I've always wondered, what is that from? What is that logo, that sticker from?
I don't know. I mean, I was asking Lee and Guy again. I was like, these decals, the decals aren't very good with the kit. Do you know where these markings are from? And like Lee was like, yeah, well, some of them are just ones that Bill George even made himself, I think. And others are just from various like jets. Probably the same kits that helped provide the donor kit parts.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find them. I couldn't find any of them. But I don't know what that TIE thing is. It's not a TIE fighter. It's just like a circle with like a.
Well, I get what you're saying. Like for assumption purposes, it does kind of have that sort of like target tie thing on it. Whether or not it's supposed to be that, but if you
zoom in, it would just be just like the circle within a circle.
But it looks like a TIE fighter. Oh yeah, it is just circle and circle. Holy shit!
It's funny talking about decals, right? So there's parts IDing, which everybody we talk about and everybody knows about, but IDing decals and figuring out what kits they're from is a whole nother art in and of itself.
Yeah.
It is.
When I was looking for
Studio Scale is relentless, isn't it? It's absolutely relentless. It gets you on the ropes for every part.
Yeah, whenever you think you've not mastered something, because you're always like in practice, you're always learning, right? There's never really any all-encompassing way of figuring things out. But whenever you think you've got something down, you're like, all right, I got this now. And then it's like there's one more step and one more step. And then I just recently started getting into tracing down decals. The tie was a difficult one because initially I was using an EFX as an example. And I noticed when I blew them up, there was a lot of like funny things in there, like designed by Steve Leeson or chili peppers and this and that. And I was like, okay, I was like, this isn't accurate. So then I found like the Aero Subaru plane, and I was like, oh, here's this decal, and oh, here's that decal. And same thing with the A-wing. I was, I'm building an A-wing now.
Yeah, the A-wing. Yeah, A-wing was Harrier, right? Wasn't it? The two triangles.
I think almost all of them. I think like almost every single one came from that one kit, and they just used like
but then you've got like a shitty old yellowing crappy decal sheet that's going to be no good to you whenever. So you've still got to have it scanned and redone.
Scan it and redo it, print it. And it's just one of those things where at the end of the day you got to realize, because you also got to figure out, right, just like parts, is this a kit piece or was it scratch built? So like the decal, when Chris was like, where does that originate from? Well, did it come from a kit or did they design it themselves and make it letraset? Because back then they were doing letraset. Yeah.
Letraset, that opens up a whole new can of worms.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother, going through those books and trying to figure that stuff out.
I'm very impressed.
What was it that Lon Peterson used? That reflective tape that's on all the Death Star tiles and on the back of the Falcon engine.
The 3M tape. Yeah, the 3M tape.
Yeah.
That stuff's fantastic. I mean, that stuff's been around forever.
Didn't he say I remember one of his first jobs at ILM was sticking on that tape on all the Death Star.
Oh, that was a good one. We lost him right in the middle. Hopefully he comes back.
Damn.
Yeah, so he was sticking that tape on, and I think they came in and they said, "Can you make it just a little bit tinier or like a little bit bigger?"
Yeah.
And you had to go in and take all the little bits off and add them all.
And nobody sees it.
You do and you don't. It's the light that you think is lights or windows. But I remember that stuff as a kid because we used to put that on our bikes for nighttime, right? So this way the light would bounce off it. Yeah, we used to use that when we were kids back in the 80s. I'm aging myself here, but yeah. So that stuff was very familiar to me when I was able to acquire some, and it hasn't really changed. I mean, if you buy a new roll of it off of Amazon, it's pretty much the same way it was 40 years ago.
I might grab some.
Yeah, it's great stuff, Joe. Just get a roll of it, and it's just a roll of tape, and you just cut it down to size, and Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's used on a lot of things. I did it when I was working on the training remote. That's why I originally grabbed the roll, because it goes behind the.
Oh, cool. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That wasn't the same stuff that was wrapped around the lightsaber blades a turn, was it? Was that different?
I think it's similar. I think it was definitely 3M product, but I think it may have been something a little bit more pliable, a little bit more easy to wrap around the blades. But I think it was very, very close to or very similar, because again, once you flash something on it, it's kind of like when you see maintenance or construction workers with the the orange and yellow vest on.
Yeah.
It's those strips that they got. The second light bounces off of it, it almost creates like it lights up, it bounces right back at you.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. But again, it's one of those things where all these, you kind of have to put your mind. I was saying to Chris when you dropped off at one point that we take for granted thinking in our own current space and time, right? Like circa 2000 this or 2023, wherever we may be at that time. But you kind of have to rewind and think about what did they have access to 45 years ago? I was saying to him, like with certain kits, they couldn't just go online and say, oh, I need a 312T, let me order 5 of them. They would probably go into the local model shop and cleaning the shelves off, and getting to a point where they were running out of their favorite kits and buying a random one here, a random one there. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just eventually gets to a point where, like, even on the B-Wing, you have the Williams FW7, right? I was saying, Chris, like, that was probably one of those situations where they probably cleared off the shelf of the cars that they use as a go-to, and was like, all right, we'll use this. And I think that's like the 2 little bits used by the cockpit. It's like, and it's not really used on anything else, right?
No,
So
it's like the older kits that aren't selling so well, they'll take them because they'll want the parts. But there would have been rare kits back then, which doesn't help us in the slightest now.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm just looking at detail.
That's so simple, right? That looks so. That's the grey chipping first, a mist coat. Then there was a slight grey mist coat, and those lines going back are pencil lines. That's
He used a lot of pencil in his models, didn't he?
Yeah,
he did.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a sharpened pencil. That's a sharpened pencil, and then just some sandpaper. Just went one swipe across with sandpaper, and that's it.
He used it on the shuttle. He used it on this.
Panel lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's great on the shuttle is it actually looks like panels, but it's penciled in.
Yeah, if you go back a few pictures, Chris, on the back of the cockpit, that's it. Yeah, if you zoom in, those lines are pencil lines.
Oh Jesus! This one is this one?
Yep, all 3 of those are pencil lines.
Wow. Jesus.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, real steady on a round piece like that. That's a tattoo artist's worst nightmare right there.
To be honest, I would look at this and I would be like, all right, I gotta scribe this circle. There's no way that's a pencil line. But
it's the masking tape and ran with a pencil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Amazing work, John.
Yeah, I thought I'd make that really nice because it was for myself. Yeah.
Take a couple more minutes to get it right.
Yeah, and then
the behind the scenes conversations. Yeah.
See, that's crazy. That bit in the middle, that's a Sat V engine.
Here?
The whole round circle Sat V.
Yeah. Okay, now I see it with the lines there.
Yeah.
Now the original cockpit was functional, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Just like the toy.
Do we ever see it function on screen? I don't remember.
You see the S-foils open, don't you? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. But I don't think we see the cockpit go.
No, you don't. Look.
Even this thing, the cockpit works like it.
Oh, so the toy actually took,
Yeah.
I remember the first time, because you remember the first time somebody was asking for reference on something, and
that's
I was
awesome,
like, use a modern day toy, because if you look at it, you get the gist of what parts or what place where, and
do you know what
part, right? And somebody laughed at me. I'm like, I'm being.
The Kenner Sandcrawler was so accurate to the Sandcrawler.
Yeah, and I got laughed at. I was like, I'm not making a joke. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm like, look at a toy, especially a modern day version of it. I'm like, there's enough detail on there where you get the gist of the layout of the land, you know?
Yeah, crazy.
So you're building
Chris,
one
have
from
you,
scratch here, Jason?
I am, yeah.
What were you asking me, John?
have you got any pictures of your blue cloud car?
I'd have to pull them up.
Oh, okay, no worries.
I'll pull them. It'll take me a second. Just give me 1 minute.
So that's looking really nice.
Are you? Did you start it yet, Jason?
The actual build?
Yeah.
No, right now I'm just placing pieces together and figuring out what's what, and I'm waiting for a few things to ship and route from overseas.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I got so many other things on my plate. I want to, like, it's just nonstop things that you just constantly building. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you need to, any scratch build you do, you need to just pour your whole life and soul into it. Don't need to get it right. And then you start three of them, and you just, wish you hadn't even considered starting the first one.
Usually. Okay, I was gonna say, and you guys know this. Usually, I have 3 or 4 things that I'm working on at any given time. But right now, other than an A-wing, which is a Lassie kit, pretty well put together already for the most part, as far as like,
oh yeah, it's lovely
and whatnot. Other than that, diving into the B-wing has been. I mean, 6 months of it alone was just aggregating reference and resources, and I'm still not even 100% there. I'm still trying to figure a few things out, but. It's been an adventure. It's one of the more, like I said, more complex pieces, because I think about people who tackle the Falcon, and I'm like, man, no way, that's just so out of my wheelhouse, And
I mean, any form of the Falcon, the 32-inch Falcon's no picnic, is it? I mean, that's like amazingly difficult. Like all the 5-foot Falcon, the 32, it's just the work involved in that that's your modeling career gone for 5 years.
Oh, for sure. Like it really truly is. And that's where I was getting a little nervous with this.
Are any of you following on the one group? Well, I know you are, Jason, but there's a guy who's taking the D'Agostini and stripping it and putting on the actual kit parts. Ah, that looks beautiful.
It does.
Lee Stringer had done that in 2016 with the D'Agostini one, and I don't know if this is 100% correct, but he'd finished the build before the D'Agostini had got to like 100 issues.
Oh, really?
Because
awesome.
he'd added all the parts on it.
Okay.
So he didn't even need the additional magazine.
Yeah, I think the steel frame bits were missing on some areas, but he'd got it. It was on display at the celebration. It had like all the back, like the rear plate was done, all with the original parts. It was crazy. But again, like why? To me, spending all that money on original parts to then put it on a D'Agostini is like, I don't know, like buying the Rolls-Royce parts and putting them on a Ford Fiesta.
Yeah.
I mean, to an extent, I get it, right? Because if you have the domes correctly made, I mean, that's thousands of dollars right there. And that's a task in and of itself. So to take the base of it, but you're right, John. There is some truth to the fact that like you're putting, like you said, a fine car chassis over the engine or body of so you're making a split. Yeah.
What used to really annoy me on the front of the D'Agostini with the mandibles used to sag. They do that on yours, Chris?
What's that?
The mandibles sag on the D'Agostini because the weight is kind of like there's a gap. There's a gap.
No, mine don't. Mine don't.
Okay.
Don't
maybe I built mine wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
You welded yours, yeah?
I did. I put extra supports in. No, I didn't. It hasn't sagged yet. Maybe maybe in a couple of years I'll have to buy.
Oh no, don't say that.
Maybe I'll have to buy Viagra for it. So we'll see.
Falcon Viagra. That's a good name for Viagra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is how I originally had it, right? Just without the plates. But they just fit in there so perfectly. It was like I had,
Yeah, well, the original painting has the flat bits like you've done it now, isn't it? So you had to sort of do it.
Yeah, I think I have the right next to the painting right there.
Yeah.
So that's where like it has the flat bits on there, and I was happy with that. But Jason twisted my arm, and you have to do it this way. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I'll have to find the blue pictures. It'll take me another second.
And you got that color down brilliantly.
I think so. I hope so. It's
amazing how much a flat coat or a matte coat can shift.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were saying about that flat paint that you found that made it even more matte.
Yeah, I always just thought there was a matte clear coats. I never knew. I mean, I haven't looked too hard, but I just always thought there was only matte clear coats. But turns out there's a flat clear coat, and I thought, all right, well, even if you spray it with flat, it's still going to be some kind of a shine. So what I did was I sprayed, a flat color, just it was the Alliance blue, and then I taped it, sprayed the Tamiya can, which was pretty glossy, okay, and then I sprayed just the Tamiya with the flat clear coat, peeled the tape off, and you could not tell the difference between a flat paint and that at all. Like it was seamless.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was surprised, stunned to be is more like it.
Nice.
But yeah, it's been amazing.
The Tamiya spray beautifully as well, don't they? The spray paint.
They really do, and they spray nicely. They spray evenly. Like I'm using Krylon right now for a base for Christian's cloud car, and it sprays, but it's like I don't have any pictures of that. Where the hell did they go? It sprays, but it like sprays in lines. Like I have to go different directions on it, but it sprayed nicely. And
really nice coverage.
No, and you bump it and it stays, it doesn't chip or scratch. Obviously you have to have the right primer underneath, but it still did really well. So, and then when I sprayed it with that flat finish, it darkened it a little bit too. Like it took away
because the light, the refraction of the light doesn't allow it to move over, bounce off as much.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jason. Yeah, you often find when you matte something down, you're like, hang on, this isn't the color that it was.
Right. Oh, here's a good picture of that. So yeah, see, like this is the gloss, and then I sprayed it with the flat, and I mean, it looks a little more purple in this picture, but in all honesty, in person, it's like perfect. It's like the perfect like ocean blue kind of like, I don't even know.
I love that. Isn't that strange that nothing in Star Wars is that color, yet that is so Star Wars.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think seriously nothing is I just X'd it out. Nothing in Star Wars has that color. And I don't even think anything in the concept ones has that color either, does it?
The ties, maybe the original ties.
The ties are
you're getting to like prequel era mainly, like Django's Slave One and stuff like that starts turning up blue, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like Camino. I mean, this painting is from Camino, so like it's funny that they use the blue on there, and then they use that blue for Django's Slave One.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find the picture of the side view of the cloud car.
I would honestly still like to do the Django paint job on a big Slave One.
Weren't you going to do it on the Merlin Models one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll ever get tired of doing Slave Ones because it's one of my favorite ships. But now I'm sort of caught between a rock and a hard place because I don't want to build another nice one again. They're amazing when you see them in person afterwards, but it doesn't matter that it's a Steve Nyson model. Any resin Slave One would be a nightmare to put together.
Yeah.
And then I'm not feeling comfortable enough to take on Guy's one. I mean, I've done the cockpit, I've done the wings, I've got all the metalwork underneath together. But now I'm like, Jesus, I just can't take the plunge and cut in the middle section out to put this cockpit in. I don't feel comfortable yet, because once you've made that cut, you can't uncut vac form stuff. It's like, that's
Don't you have like?
do or die.
I remember in looking through old posts about that. Don't you have practice ones, or you just have the like? Wasn't there?
I do, yeah. But
So
do you know what? I've taken them all out of the box and I've muddled them all up. And Guy he said, I've just put some crappy ones in that you can practice on, but I can't tell the difference between the crappy and the good ones. I'm like, oh no.
you cut the good one. Mess up.
Yeah, I'm going to cut the good one up. Like,
cut the good one up. Yeah.
He put a video out about you've probably seen it on the Slay One group. He's put about how to do it, basically, how to do the main, get it together. Yes. And he says with one of the wing wells, he's just chucked in a load of wing wells for free, and said just use them as a fruit bowl or something, because they're not right. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, this is a second. This is this is bad. Like, this is like best I could ever produce.
You and I couldn't pick out the problems with it, but like he could. He knows exactly what
when it's your baby,
yeah,
what's right and wrong with it, don't you?
So there's the blue side blue view, and this is the painting. This is the painting.
You've got that.
I think it's close. I think it's damn close. I mean,
are you going to use the pilots that Lass provided?
I am, but I'm going to cut the helmets, trim the helmets so they look more shaped like this.
Yeah, because they've got
I was just going to ask you that. Are you going to mimic the helmets?
They look like backwards stormtrooper helmets almost, don't they?
Yeah. Almost even like the whatchamacallit, the Mim Mam stormtrooper.
Or the duck ones, the first order ones.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the pilots and I'm gonna just shape the helmet, because there's a lot of meat on that helmet. So I'm just gonna cut it, shave it down, and try to make it look more like this. That's all. I mean, that's all you see, anyways. You don't see anything else, just the helmet.
Nice. But, and you got to make a few whales as well, and some city landscape.
Well,
you have the old Duck Chang style.
You want to know something funny? It's funny you say that, John. Last night, I'm laying in bed, right? My wife and I are in bed. We're going to sleep. Lights are out, and I'm laying there, and I'm thinking about this thing, right? And I'm like thinking about, okay, so the engine's in the middle, right? And then what do you call that? The bridge that goes across the middle, right?
Yeah.
You know how on the filming miniature has like almost pipe work, but it's more like designed ribs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I shaved all that off. So, and I've been like thinking to myself, all right, do I put kit parts there? Do I do something? I don't know what to do, right? It's been on my mind since I first started this. Okay. And last night, I'm laying there and I'm in bed. I'm thinking of the picture and I'm thinking of the whale. Okay, I'm in bed next to my wife. I'm thinking of this whale, right? So I had in my dumb head to make the whale's wing shape, like kind of go onto that bridge that comes out from the engine.
Nice.
You know you follow what I mean? Like, just
I like that.
Build it up with styrene and shape it so that it looks like those wings, just pointed like that. That's kind of, I think I'm going to do that, because I could do whatever the hell I want. I don't have to, you can't see that, so it doesn't matter.
No.
And like, this
so, I mean, underneath, sorry to cut you off, Chris, but that underneath the cloud car, the bellies, are they blue or is that white, like a whale's belly?
I mean, I think I think that it's gray, but light source.
I always understood them to be blue, but the light hitting the bottom is giving them a gray hue.
Yeah,
you see Vader's helmet orange, like Vader's helmet's black, but you see like
Don't
fiery.
Tell me that, Jason.
I wasn't sure what you were doing. I thought you were just like I thought you were taking creative liberty with doing like blue over gray, and I thought because it looked good, I didn't say anything. But I believe it to be, looking at Corey's work, I believe it to be blue with like light reflection off the bottom.
I would say that as well, but look on this side. Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
that's clear line of blue.
Yeah, but that's true. But you have to take it to the. All right, so now and John, we mentioned this earlier when Chris froze up. Now you're taking your how should I say this? You have to take into perception or consideration how art is applied to canvas, right? And how you're factoring in light sources and curvatures. This is a curved piece. It's a three-dimensional versus a flat piece, and how light's going to bounce off that. So you're getting, you have a stormy sky that's almost like, London. You get that rainy sort of overcast sky, and he's flying. You get some of the city lights mixed in with the clouds in the dusk, and it's bouncing off the bottom of the car. That's got a curved. So to me, it always meant, okay, the cloud car is blue, and then the way he did the tones of gray was light bouncing off that.
Yeah, I agree, Jason. I think that's
shut up, both of you.
All
shut
blue.
up.
And that's the lights of the cityscape showing up, which would be bright underneath the
exactly
curved metal.
Exactly.
No. But
hence
Chris,
making it somewhat gray.
No.
It's your model. You do it however you want to do it.
No.
The way you have it looks great. That's why it wasn't something I addressed. It doesn't look off. It doesn't look bad. That's why what you've done doesn't look bad.
Yeah, I agree. It could possibly. I mean, this right here gives me thinking that it possibly could be blue. Right, this area right in here.
We also got to compare it to McQuarrie's other works and the way he uses lighting. Yeah. So it definitely is meant to be blue. It's just the light reflection.
Well, I mean, I don't think I would like it as much if it was all blue. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. It would be very strong.
Yeah, it'd be too strong.
It would be a strong look.
Too overpowering. You need something. I would need something to break it up. I like the cloud car is the orange one is, it's bright and in your face, but it's not dark. Like this is a dark color, so you kind of need something to break it off. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, that's what you're funny. You brought up the whales. That I'm gonna put the whales on here, but that's my plan actually, is to put like just a whale wing on there, sort of.
There's so much going on in that painting, isn't there? There's like, as Jason said, that stormy cloud, the two whales, the pilots, the street lights underneath, the whole city going on.
Is there a ship over
see that
here?
building?
It looks like sort of like
building
a
onto the
falcon.
left. Oh yeah, the Falcon. And the egg cup, they look like plastic cups put on top of each other on the left there on that building.
Yes,
like the
right
shield
here.
generator.
Yep. Or a certain vibrating device.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So yeah, this is I think, and then like you can't see this part under here, so I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna put that on. It looked really cool. I didn't like the normal.
Yeah, the panther part. Yeah,
the panther part, which when you sent me those pieces, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna save this for rainy day. Maybe I'll use it somewhere. Yeah. But immediately it's like,
I like the way that you've kept the mesh behind it. That's on the the kit.
Yeah, I like that a lot actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's coming along. The middle's taking a little bit longer than I was hoping, but I want to get it right. So yeah.
Yeah, let me know how much cool shade you need.
Give me a whole sheet, a whole big roll of it.
Bear with me, I'll see how much I've got.
He's gonna come back with a big sheet of it. Yeah. Yeah, you never mentioned that to me about the blue, Jason.
Well, I was going to, but then I thought, like, okay, he's taking creative liberty here, and it doesn't look bad. So, like, the engine part was driving me a little crazy, and I was like, no, you got to cap it off. That's a nice slice. That's a
nice slice.
That's probably
enough. I just need 2 pieces for underneath the sand crawler.
That's enough for you. So, I reckon, like, what's the net B is going to be like? Yeah, that much. Yeah. You could have that top piece.
Okay.
Cool. If you cut that into sections that you need 2, if you do like a small strip on the bottom, and instead of doing circle, like square, and because remember originally you're just going to be like 2 by 2, place it behind. But if you cut into subsections, you'll have enough out of that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
because I mean, really, for that, I only need like this much for the circle, right? And like
Yeah.
2 small squares like this for the.
I got this from for the back of the ATST on the
Okay.
8-rack part on the back of the ATST, the Return the Jedi version, not the Empire version.
Yeah.
The Jedi version's got cool shade in there.
I have to say, I like your Predator back there. Back in the side over there.
Yeah, I've got too much shit. No wonder I'm trying to sell stuff.
Honestly, if it wasn't Star Wars, it'd be Aliens and Predator for me. I love.
Yeah,
I
me
do.
too. Exactly the same.
I love them.
Mine would be Blade Runner.
Do you know what, Jason? I was a latecomer to Blade Runner. As a kid,
Fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, as a kid, I expected Harrison Ford to be Han Solo in Blade Runner, and I was annoyed that he wasn't. Yeah. But Daryl Hannah, I was a big fan of her in Splash, so there you go. That's
Everybody was a big fan of Daryl Hannah back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it took me a long time, but like
every time he gets into a good story,
good
it goes away.
Yeah.
Sorry. Someone rung me. People are trying to get hold of me. Well, yeah. So the soundtrack, man, that the synth soundtrack to Blade Runner is alone worth everything, and like Rutger Hauer as well is such a badass. It's just yeah, Blade Runner's badass.
It is. It's got its own everything from like the props to the whole universe, the way it was built up. Even the newer one. I know a lot of people frown on the 2049, but I even enjoyed that one. I like that one.
I like that one. I like Ana de Armas, that's for sure.
Chris, you got a question there about you answered. Okay.
I answered, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had it Ana de Armas in that one?
Yes, she's
Yes.
yeah.
Sorry, are you talking about 2049? I cut out then.
Yeah, the new Blade Runner.
Yeah. So I love the spinner as well, the ship.
I don't know that.
I love that thing. Did you guys ever see the blimp that Jason Eaton built? There's a tested video of Adam Savage. That is something else, huh?
Yeah. That combines all of Jason's sort of talents, doesn't it? That's got all his electrics in it. It's got, he's sort of design work, hands down. That's an amazing.
I almost fell off my seat when I first saw that thing. I was like, that is some phenomenal work.
He's got a great story about transporting that to Wonderfest as well, where he's like driving and he's hitting every bump and he's like freaking out. Like, just listening to that story is pretty great too.
I hate traveling to shows with my models. I just like.
Oh,
have you seen that picture? I've strapped them in the back of the car like children. I've got seatbelts around them.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah.
No. Well, you're trying to tell us about. You're trying to get a table at Celebration, right? We talked about this a few times.
Yeah. So, like you said the other day, you were like, "How did you ask?" And there was an application section on the website that said anyone that wants to exhibit, they had to put in an application. And like you were like, surely they'd look at your work, right? Or you could like try and push your YouTube channel or something to them. And I was like, no, it didn't work like that. It's like a bot,
It's a straight-up application.
Yeah, one of those stupid when you're trying to you're on need an emergency online, say, can we help? And this robot pops up to talk to you. Right. You're like, fuck off. It's like
for Celebration.
It was like that. The application was just like, need a website, need how many tables you want, do you want money for it, who's gonna the names of the people that you want to help you, and that's it. And they're gonna let me know by the end of January, but I haven't had any reply yet. So
you put our names down, right?
Yeah, you're the caretakers.
But
Chris, we're the minions.
We're the minions.
Hold the suspenders on.
Yeah. And we're holding the suspenders and they're carrying it like a Ark of the Covenant.
The model minions.
Yeah.
I can just hear you.
Get the camera lens brush and the air can dust in the models.
No, we gotta leave the dust on. Remember?
Our guy's like, no.
Yeah. Leave the dust on.
You're doing it all wrong.
I'll be honest, John. Sometimes I do actually come down and look at your models a lot that I have bought from you. I do. I'm not even fluffing you at all. I come down. I'm like, I look at it and I do dust my models off. I do. I and then sometimes I'll be dusting yours and I'm like, oh yeah, there's still some dust there. There's a lot of dust when I get one
Yeah,
from you.
mate, this room is just, I'm surprised I haven't got respiratory problems because, like,
I am
I
too.
kick
Listen,
around.
Jason and I were discussing one time about, do you wear a mask, or like, because when you're spraying in your video and you're talking without a mask on, obviously.
Yeah, I have a mask, but it's too covered in dust to wear.
Oh, geez. Well, even resin. You don't realize, like, even breathing in resin when you're drilling through a kit and sanding down a kit, that stuff will kill you.
Dude,
I'll open the back door and blow it off outside, or but yeah, it's not even funny. I shouldn't. I really, if I'm doing like rattle can work, or if I'm using that like Motip spray putty or anything like that, I'll wear a mask. Yeah, but when you're just doing little streaks and stuff with your airbrush,
yeah, I wear a mask.
Yeah, I don't mask up. I don't mask up too much when I'm doing small little spritz of the airbrush. It's funny when we talk about dust. Whenever I take one of Lee's pieces out of a box that's been chipped over, I'm like, does this guy work in like a clean room? Like, where they make like microchips and you have to wear like the dust suit? Like, his stuff is just, there's not a nothing on it. There's nothing.
There's nothing messy about Lee Ralph in any shape or form.
at all. And the best thing, right? His work is so clean that, like, of course, during transit, right, from the UK to the US, things will pop off. You know exactly where they go. Like, even if it's a model I'm not familiar with or something he scratched, I'm like, oh, this goes right here. Because it's like everything is just so, you don't have to kind of look and figure it out, and it's just
even his videos on his personal page, his white subway tile, his house is like immaculate too. Like, I've seen like the pictures where there's that bird, he's feeding that bird, and his bonsai trees, and it's like, even that is like completely immaculate.
Yeah.
But I wear a mask up for everything. I wear a mask for sanding.
He's got a dirty mouth, Chris.
That I know, yes. That is true. Yes.
One sec, I've got to shoot, guys. 1 sec.
All right. But yeah, seriously, Jason, I wear a mask for oh shit, who's that? I can't answer that. That might be my wife. Go ahead, talk about something, Jason.
I guess the mask is a good topic, right? It's one of those things where you really don't think about it, or you take for granted what you're working on, that it's not harmful, or that you're in a wide open outdoor space, and that it wouldn't be an issue. But technically, it can be a lot more serious than you think.
Oh yeah, I work construction my whole life. I've welded for years. Okay. And the normal hood.
So I keep talking. For some reason, my screen's so dark. I'm just gonna change my camera.
That's fine. The normal welding hood, right? So I welded for a couple of years, and after the first couple of months, I would come home, and not to sound gross or anything, but I would blow my nose, and it would be all black.
Yes,
just like. I'm like,
dude, the fact that you said that, like, sometimes you go to clean your nose and there's like blue or red, and you're like, wow, I'm really breathing this stuff in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I look at my paint. Like, I have two different masks. I have the dust mask and I have the paint mask. Even like the filters on that, you pop them off, you can put new ones on. The filters, they're white, but then
so much they catch. Yeah.
They turn brown. Like, they're just.
Have you ever? Well, I know.
Yeah,
I know you work in the garage, so you're a little bit more like outdoors. Well, I don't have a garage, so
I close my doors. The doors are closed mostly, except like in the summer. But like,
okay. I was gonna say one thing I've noticed, and this kind of scared me a little bit. There are times where I'd be working, over here, for example, right? Maybe spraying something, rattle can or sitting something, and then I'd take like like the Swiffer, like the wet jet thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Over there.
Oh yeah.
And I'm picking up gray and black, and I'm like, that's 15 feet away. So if that's 15 feet away, and I'm right here,
I have a spray booth now. So, and it's a pretty hard suction, and there's a filter over top of the hole, and
those work really, really well.
I regularly replace that every week because it just it's white, and then it just
sucks up so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I was going back to what I was saying about the welding thing, you know, and I also I was on a welding line, and we had these air helmets that looked like alien helmets. They were like long like the alien head, okay?
Yeah.
And like even then, like it was sealed underneath, okay? So from that point on, I've been very aware, and this is going back 25 years ago, right? I'm very aware of how much you actually inhale, like like I don't want to end up with lung cancer, you know, like uh, inhaling those resin dust particles. I don't,
It's
and
so
then
dangerous.
it is, and when I'm sanding with like a what the fuck's it called, the rotozip
The
or
Dremel.
Dremel, like it's like a dust cloud of resin just flying up, and I'm covered in it, okay, and I'm shaking myself off and blowing myself off, and to think about all of that in your lungs.
Yeah, and it's so fine, right? So it's
No,
binding
yeah,
to like all the polyps in your lungs and all
yeah,
that. Oh, it's
it's awful.
egregious, man. It's gnarly. Yeah.
Well, and also, okay, so I think maybe I have become immune to some of the smells too, because like I actually like the smell of enamel paint, not acrylic. I don't like the smell of acrylic paint. I like the smell of enamel paint. I like the smell of alcohol, rubbing alcohol. I like some of these smells. I know they're not great for you, but but I used to before I got my garage set up, I used to paint my Sandcrawler, my Falcon, the Slave One. I painted them on the kitchen island, okay, with enamel
Yeah.
paints. And I'd have the window open and the door cracked so that the air would flow through. And my wife is pretty sensitive to smell. She's always like, that smells, that smells.
Oh, it's like a slap
So,
in the face for
oh yeah.
somebody who's not used to it.
And I have no idea how I got away with that for a year or two, because like enamel's a lot stronger than acrylic. Okay.
Yeah, very much so, and a lot more caustic, and yeah.
Yeah. I like the smell of it, but and paint thinner. I like the smell of paint thinner too. But the other day I had to use acetone. Okay. And acetone is some serious shit. Like it's toxic and corrosive, and it's definitely not good for you. You don't want to drink that stuff. And I used it on something, and then I spray painted afterwards, and my wife came home. She's like, "What is that smell?" And I didn't smell the acetone. I only smelled the paint, right? So, and then I'm like, I don't smell it. It's just paint. I opened up the doors. It's fine. It's no big deal. So then some of my son's female friends came over, and my wife says to them, "Do you smell that paint?" And it's not any different than like the reason I knew it was the acetone is because I've sprayed paint in the house many, many times, and nobody says a word. But this acetone, I couldn't smell it, but everybody else in the entire house could smell it. You know. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I had to use it again the next day. So I made sure that all the garage doors were open. And even though I froze my ass off, I didn't want to hear bitching about, you know.
Acetone, spraying acetone. Wow.
Acetone. Yeah. You're muted, Jim. No. I used acetone. See, okay. So I made a stupid mistake. I'm building this metal armature for Christian for his cloud car, because he had asked me if we could make it higher so it goes above his collectibles. He could display it on top, and it shows up above his collectibles. And I was really worried about it tipping, right? Because it's a resin, and it falls over off the top of a what do you call that? The glass case there.
Yeah.
It's done. It's destroyed. So I sprayed. I cleaned off the steel plate that I made for it with acetone to get all the oils off, right? And then I put primer down, which was it was an acrylic primer. I didn't realize this, but it was an acrylic engine block primer.
Right.
And then I sprayed it with black Krylon, just black paint, which probably was enamel. And then after I sprayed the black, I put that clear coat on. Well, it just bubbled it up, took it all off. I could actually touch it. It would come off of my finger.
Oh, no.
Like it was horrible. I was like, God damn it, rookie mistake, enamel, acrylic over enamel, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So then I had to use the acetone again, and that's when I made sure the whole house was open. I didn't hear bitching that day, but
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because the acrylic dries so fast that it literally pulls the enamel.
oh, it did pull it right
crinkles
up.
it. Yeah.
I even let it go overnight. The black.
Oh,
And then
really?
and it's still maybe because it was really cold on steel. I don't know if it cured.
Yeah.
It didn't cure
Mine got
right.
cured. Yeah.
Yeah, but it just bubbled up, and I was like, "Mother effer!"
Yeah, you have to do those things though. You have to make all these mistakes to realize what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But just don't do it on a £2,000 model.
Yeah, that's true. But I always say that is the best. That's the best way to learn. Whenever people ask questions, oh, I want to try to get into this, and I want to start with that, and it's always followed up. But I'm so afraid to make mistakes, and I'm like, then that's the only way you're gonna learn is making mistakes. We could sit here and talk about this ad nauseum, right, for hours, and we could say all the ways of doing it and all the best approaches and all the best tools to use. But unless you actually do it hands-on and you mess up and you figure out, oh, this works or that doesn't work, that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember the Sandcrawler was the second model I ever did, right? So I bought it from Randy Cooper, and I sprayed it with primer. I cleaned it. Okay, I scrubbed it with Simply Green to get all the oils off, right?
Yeah.
And I sprayed it with this engine block primer, and it pulled up. It didn't stick
I
at
remember
all.
this. Couldn't get it.
And I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? I can't sand this whole freaking thing. I'll sand all the details off. I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I contacted Randy, and he said, just use some acetone on it, right? It'll take it. And I was talking to my dad about this because he has acetone. He's like, are you sure you want to use acetone on this? Because he used to use it on, he was a line truck mechanic. He would use it on actual engines for trucks.
So they're gonna say bodies.
No.
You could get rid of a few bodies.
Yeah. Well, you could with that shit. I'm serious. It's strong stuff. So he's like, just use it. And I was really hesitant. And I did it. I put it in a tub and put it in, scrubbed it. Just came right off. All the paint it literally will strip the paint off of your bones. Okay. But
you don't want to mess the resin up, do you either?
No, you don't want to mess the resin up. But he said it would be fine, and it was completely fine. It didn't mess up any of the details at all. So fast forward to this sucker, right? I sprayed the cockpit, and it did the exact same thing. Okay, I'm like, son of a bitch. So I'm like, okay, well, just use some acetone on it, right? No, I put it in acetone. I started scrubbing it. I could see it eating away the details on the the pipe work on the front of the I was like, no. So I had to re-scratch a lot of the details inside of the cockpit because the acetone ate some of it away.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I remember you when we first started chatting, this is way back, and you were like, what primer do you use? And you were like, I've yet to find a primer that works.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? Like I've yet to find a primer that doesn't really work.
I know, Chris, we had that conversation. Remember, I was like, try this. Eventually, I think one or two of them that I recommended you found. You were like, all right.
Even until recently, I was stunned when you guys were telling me, oh yeah, I'm gluing parts on the primer. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Every time I glue something,
I remember that.
It just comes right off. Well. Yeah, it just came right off.
He's like, all my stuff's falling off, and I remember that. Yeah, that's going back a ways, but I remember that.
I would have to put the piece on, do a little circle with a pencil, pull the piece off, scratch off the primer with razor knife or sandpaper, glue it back on because nothing was sticking. I don't know if it was that engine block primer, but that's what I was using a lot because Randy actually put me onto that, and it works well for a lot of things, but not for gluing. Nope.
I start to wonder if that has to do with like weather conditions or humidity levels or things like that, because you're not using anything different or weird or unique outside of like the typical tools of the trade, so to speak. But I remember that. I remember when you couldn't get things to stick. I remember when the primer wasn't laying down. And I found it really odd. I'm like, what? I'm like, primer's primer. Like that's of course you may have a mold that may have like extra mold release, like you said, or oily or something. Other than that, that's interesting. But I remember even with the glue,
even the ones with the mold release, I'll clean them. Okay, I'll scrub them with with paint thinner. I'll scrub them with Simply Green. I'll scrub them with a bunch of stuff. And I still can't get that freaking mold release off. I have to use that special Rust-Oleum white primer that's made for specifically hard to stick areas. And even that, like I spray it on, and white primer, it tends to be more fluid and kind of runs a little bit easier. And I hate using it because it doesn't do well until it looks like it fills in the details, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
For some reason, it seeps in and dries and looks good. But I still use that on certain ones. Like I had to use that on Lassie's cockpits for the Cloud car. And remember the A-Wing? I painted that sucker 3 freaking times because I couldn't get the paint to stick. It would just like fall off.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I struggle with that. I painted that 3 freaking times because of that mold release. I could not get that off whatsoever.
That's crazy.
Wonder what happened. Johnny disappeared on us.
I think when using the phone, because I've done it a few times, I think what happens is eventually the phone gets so hot, even if you still has battery life, it just gets so hot that it can no longer accept. What I used to do when I would use my phone for some of the shows, like if I was traveling, I'd have a little ice pack that I put behind the phone, or I'd put it against something really, really cold for a little bit, because the phone it heats up so much when you're like streaming your video for an hour. The battery, it's just so much resource, right? You just get the processor and the battery just sucking in so much resource. Yeah. But also it starts to get a little wanky with pulling in internet and things like that. So I'm wondering if that's what happened.
Yeah. Thanks, Barry. We're wrapping up soon, though. I'm surprised John's been on this long. He said he had an hour on his lunch break, but
yeah, I was surprised. Once 9 o'clock came around, I was surprised he was still on. But it's always a pleasure when he's able to stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, we'll always try to make the time to get on in the morning because he's a great guest to have on and so knowledgeable.
Plus the conversation just flows easily.
Yeah,
he always starts off with oh, we really don't have much to talk about. He says that before every show, right? You notice that?
Yeah, he does.
We have nothing to talk about, and then the second we get on, it's just like.
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, I mean, you and we talk on the phone a lot, and like we seriously never have run out of things to talk about. And even when I'm talking to John, like he's always like we're talking, and then he has some life event he's got to get off for every time. It's oh, I gotta go, I gotta run. Like he's worse than I am. I'm pretty bad, but he's a lot worse than I am. But a lot of that's will change now because I don't have somebody calling me every hour or so.
True.
Yeah, so
that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, hey Richard, how's it going, man? We got to get you on again. Talk some found parts stuff.
Yeah, Richard's a good. He was a good guest and a good resource too. I like when we have guests on that we can learn from and kind of absorb things in. That's always.
Yeah, we've actually we've talked about this, Jason. Is okay. I this is our hobby, right? And it's fun to see the new stuff that's coming out or show off a piece or, talk about like a statue or something like that. But we've discussed this. Like, I find I'm more engaged in something that's educational, like the found parts, the behind the scenes, the studio scale modeling. I'd rather sit and talk about that for 2-3 hours rather than, hey, check out the new hot toy coming out. I get it. People are excited for that stuff, and I am too in general. But if I'm gonna sit on a show and I can only talk about how cool the face sculpt is for how long, you know what I mean? Whereas
I do think I agree with you. I do think that I didn't mean to inject like that. Sorry, get finished.
No, I'm good. I'm used to you jumping in and cutting me off.
I didn't mean to like that. I feel you're gonna go towards like it. There is more substance when you're talking about content, but actually learning and in real time, and people get to engage because people that are watching, like for example, the Bowmans, they know a lot about that type of stuff, so they can kind of chime in and either correct us, not in a rude way, but steer us in the right direction and lead us to certain things. And like I used to do when I was a watcher of the show, and I'm like, these bananas don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, no, go to this site, check this out, check that out. But you need that. You need to sometimes rely on the guests and whatnot for that type of stuff. But also I do like the idea of we never really got a chance to tackle other news Star Wars related, right? Like, yeah, there's the Hot Toys, there's the statues, but there's so many other things out there. I mean, anything from like Legos to what new shows are coming up, or what's being released when, comics, things that, and I would from time to time like to get into, something where we just get to do something all encompassing and whatnot, because every once in a while it's fun and it makes things a little interesting. But no, I do enjoy I'm looking forward to doing the AT-AT show, which should be pretty soon, right? Within a week or two.
I'm trying.
It's going to be a fun little deep dive.
Yeah, I'm trying to get lined up with trying to get lined up with Rob. Rob's going to join us for I don't know if we haven't talked about this at all, but we're going to do a show where we talk about found parts on an AT-AT helmet, and I think our channel has kind of evolved a little bit. I think we're not so much like, hey, check out this collection, hey, check out that collection. You and I at least are very much into educating, talking about stuff that, learning things such as this, because this shit's fascinating. I find it truly fascinating. I could sit and talk about this all the time. I think about this when I'm laying in bed with my wife, so I'm not thinking about the new hot toy that's coming out. You know what I mean? But yeah, like we're going to try to schedule something where we discuss found parts and how the AT-AT helmet was made. And we're going to try to do
it's one of the more complex ones. Second to Boba Fett, it's got a lot of parts on it, unlike other helmets that just have like a piece here, a piece there. It's definitely up there with a number of different bits on it. So it's a nice fun deep dive to get into.
And I think we're going to actually kind of make it a series where we just talk about pick a helmet, pick a character that's interesting, and kind of deep dive into more of how it was made, what it is, what's on it, what not just, hey, that's a cool biker scout, so we're gonna try to get Rob on as much as possible. What's that?
I said the what and why. Yeah
we're gonna try to get Rob on as much as possible, because freaking Rob is a wealth of knowledge, and everybody loves his beautiful bald head. So
yeah, he's so humble about it. A lot of people don't see Rob that way, but it's just because he's a little bit more reserved. But guys, if you only knew, I mean, this is Rob's got decades of deep dive knowledge and just parts, and it really is great talking with Rob and learning from him, because there's just so much that he's aware of, and there's things that I'm like, oh, I got this, and then Rob's like, no, it's this, and I'm like, wow, like this, he does it all the time. So yeah, he's a great guest, and I love having him on.
Taking it for example, even like Bausch, when you guys were talking about Bausch, he just was like, let me show you something. Reverse engineering the Bausch was interesting, and that was definitely a good. Yeah, so things like that I think are really a great way to. What's up, man?
I'm so sorry. This is like,
no worries.
No, we don't staying longer than usual. We appreciate it.
Not that you're not important, but just imagine if I had to be coherent and make sure my battery was charged and people weren't coming into my work and annoying me.
Oh, okay. You're supposed to be working, right?
I am working.
Oh, okay. So are we. We're working too. I'm working. I'm getting paid right now, actually.
Hard at work.
So yeah. John, you say your place is dusty and dirty, but it looks pretty clean behind you.
It does, yeah. It does. Well, when you went like this, you can wash me.
You're a good 6 feet away.
Sprayed with foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've got basically just try and get my room like an ILM room, which means I just don't smoke. That's the only thing I don't have the cigarette stench and
You vape though, don't you?
And yellow walls.
You vape?
Well, kind of sometimes, yeah.
I thought I heard you yesterday vaping when I was talking to you on the phone.
And I don't smoke either, so it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, smoking, I'm always cigarette smoke gets on. When you receive something from somebody that has cigarette smoke on it, like you can really tell.
Yeah.
It's
Dude,
awful.
you open the box and it's like,
Yeah.
it's just
it punches you right in the face. I got a Panther.
They sell things like when you buy like even like vintage figures, like you know this, right? When they'll say comes from a smoke-free home, like you don't want your mock figures turning up stinking of like cigarettes.
Because it doesn't
even
go
the
away.
acrylic case won't hide that.
It doesn't go away. It still stays there no matter what. I got a Panther G model kit one time, and I opened it up. I'm like, oh God, this is bad. Like, I almost sent it back. If it wasn't a Bandai Panther G model kit, I would have sent it back.
Oh man, what is it? What a little one or the big one?
The little one, yeah.
One for you, yeah. And they're important. You can't.
Nope,
maybe primer. Maybe a coat of primer.
Maybe we'll see. But the box will always smell like it. Yeah.
The problem is it, just like anything, right? Like it's like when you're working in your shop, you get used to the smells of the enamels and the acrylics, and you know it's so much more potent to somebody else. It's like a smoker; they smoke, so they're so used to that scent, they're so used to that smell. They don't realize they're saturated in their skin and their clothing, and you know. So when you get something, you're right, and there's no reversing that. Like especially if you get like a figure or something important, hot toy or a vintage figure, that's it. It's done.
Even between when I was a kid and now, okay, like when I was a kid. Everybody smoked. I mean, it was everywhere. Everywhere you looked, people were smoking.
My mum used to smoke 60 a day. Bless her.
It was a smell that you barely noticed because everybody.
Well, in the '80s, everything was one giant cigarette cloud. Right. Yeah, it was like a mushroom cloud of cigarette smoke.
Nowadays, how much you're not around cigarette smoke, one person walks by you who had a cigarette and you could smell it a mile away. You know
how strange. Like when you look back at the pictures of like when you used to party out in clubs and stuff, and like you look back and you'd see guys like with like cigarettes in their hands and girls with like cigarettes. You'd be like, oh, that's weird.
Even to this day, when I go to a restaurant, I'm waiting for the hostess to say smoking or non-smoking. Like it's just every single time because it just was grained in my head. You know, that's how it was back then.
You know, and it's not that it made a difference.
You know you're in a cheap airline or a shit airplane when you sit back in your seat and there's an ashtray.
Yes. Yes. And you're like, can you believe they actually smoked on airplanes?
Oh, or I'm going to die. This plane's 40 years old at least.
Man, yeah. I haven't seen an ashtray in forever.
But that's fun, yeah. When it works into your model parts and things like that, it's like, especially when you get an important kit, right, Chris? You're like,
yeah. I'm surprised. I guarantee you, every single Star Wars filming model smells like cigarette smoke. It has to.
Yeah.
There's
we
no
put
way
the pictures of the tie, right? Remember, he had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's wiring the things, and they were smoking up. They would, chain smoking back then.
You know, you go up to one of those things if they let you get close enough, and you sniff, and you be like, "Oh, yep, marble menthol."
Not even realized it's come through from the archives. That isn't. Okay, John.
There's something popped up on Facebook, an advertisement for cigarettes when they thought it caused cancer, and it was like with this new asbestos filter.
Oh my god! Imagine like you get rid, straight from the archives. This isn't foundation; it's nicotine.
Yeah.
That's not foundation spray.
That's a paint color for Guy to do next.
Yeah, that's probably what that foundation is. That's probably what that foundation dust is instead of not the color.
Archive X nicotine, I love it.
It's like the color
nicotine and dust.
It's like the color of old ladies' nails after she's been smoking for.
When they turn yellow.
Yes, that's the color. That's why it's done.
Man, the little kids are like, what are these guys talking about?
The little kids watch this?
Were different times.
Oh,
I don't think so. No.
There's nothing that could be in any way educational to little children.
Maybe if Jason stands up and starts twerking, maybe we'll get some kids to watch it.
We'll get some views.
Yeah, it'd be like the She-Hulk.
Anyway, models, right? What were we talking about?
Yeah, we'll get back to that. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
But we didn't get to what you're working on, Jason, at all.
Just the B-Wing and the A-Wing. The A-Wing, again, is not, it's a little different. Sorry, I got Dark coming up. Yeah, so the A wing is just a build and a paint, right? But the B wing is a deep dive because I'm, kind of going in and trying to figure everything out and whatnot. But yeah, other than that, I'm working on a couple hilts right now. Still cracking away at Boba Fett, which I feel like is that thing's just never ending, man. He just doesn't stop.
Chris was telling me about your I was going to say my gauntlets here, but your found part on the PP1 gauntlet. Or is it the PP2 you're working on? The wired sort of.
The yellow extender with the
whatever it is, grappling hook or whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah,
wasn't that apparently like from like a Datsun or something, a Datsun Sunny or something, like an ignition starter or something?
Yeah, it's a mixture of a few different bits, right? And some of them you can still get today at your local hardware store, right? They're still basically the same, as long as you get the right sizing. But just doing some research, Steve Coleman, who we've had on the show and who will be returning again, has been a great resource. He's either helped me directly or indirectly by putting me in the right direction. So yeah, I've been deep diving. I've been doing a little bit of ESB, some Return of the Jedi, which is a commission for somebody else, and then working on the PP2. And then I've also been on the side, which is its own monster, was the Super Trooper. So doing the Uzi, and I was able to acquire almost all of the original found parts of that, the turntable bits and the dental piece, and
nice.
That was a nightmare in and of itself, because that just was much more expensive and much more tedious than I expected. But once you get to a certain level with something, there's like no turning back, right? I see some guys give up and they're like, hey, I get these batch of parts, here you go. And you're like, oh, sometimes it's a good thing when somebody gives up on a project, because then you can kind of source 20 or 30% of the things that you need in one bite. But otherwise, I just never realized how complex Boba was, as far as like taking things and, adding all the originals to it. So one of the things I got into the habit of doing is whenever I would get a helmet from RS, I would strip off any like cast parts or whatever, because the helmet technically is lineage, right? They're making it off of block or lineage piece. So like the Biker Scout, I was like, okay, let's change this. Let's take the 3M pieces and pop the real ones on. But with Boba, it's just all the, like we talked about the AT-AT, all the complexities of how the inner helmet, from the micro switch to the rice grain LEDs and the wiring and just all of that stuff, the MQ1, the dental files, is just tracking all that stuff down and getting the original stuff, especially now where a lot of guys are remaking it, like modern day versions of it. They're having the machine to spec and whatnot, which is great. But I've been tracking down like all the original bits, and man, it's an adventure in and of its own. But yeah, I'm having fun doing it, and and I've been doing it with the AT-AT. I think Chris actually caught the bug too. Chris just recently picked up a TC67 cassette deck for the the tube holders and the thing that goes into the CO2, the box CO2 canister holder. So, I mean, the buttons.
You guys trying to find found parts from it. That's a whole new hobby of itself, right? That's a slippery slope you'll go down to destroy your bank.
It is.
Finding all those bits.
It's tough. The one I got is so pristine and so nice. Like, it looks like it came right out of the box. I almost don't want to rip it apart. Like, it's so beautiful just the way it is. This old tape deck. I know I need to. I bought it for that reason. But
yeah, when he first said, he's like, I found one in great condition. I'm like, it don't matter. You got to cannibalize it. Like, it don't matter how good a condition it is.
I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, do I really want to rip this apart? Like, it's just.
He's like, there's no dust, there's no marks. I'm like, it don't matter.
Chris, you're going to be in an 80s vest with short shorts, jogging around with your big foam headphones.
I love it.
Leaning too, you put it like, carry it like this.
Yeah.
Put it up on your shoulder.
Well, even when people saw like the calculators and they're like, "Oh, it's this much money," I'm like, well, "Why are you charging 50 over market?" "Oh, because it operates." I'm like, "I'm ripping it apart
no
anyway.
It
doesn't care if it operates. I don't care if it works. So I'm ripping it apart." Yeah, I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I plan on it. It worked. It looks so perfect that I was gonna go over to my mom's and grab a tape because I don't have any tapes. She's got a whole stack of them all in shelves because she's a hoarder. But I want to see how well it works and how it sounds. Probably sounds terrible, but it still would work.
I think I've still got. I have a tape left. I think it's No More Tears by Ozzy Osbourne. There you go. There's that album.
There you go. There you go.
Nice.
I'll put Ride the
Actually,
Lightning in there.
Yeah.
I actually just had somebody hit me up last night, freshly chopped. What are the chances, right? Because remember, Chris, I was going on about how random people would like just reach out and, hey, what's this? And, can you help me with that? So the guy says, hey, just thank you for helping me. Is there anything I can do for you? And like, would you be interested in any found parts? And I'm like, what do you get there? And he's like, well, I just got these 2 Otis boards, and he's like, the guy's cutting them up for me as we speak. And he sends me a picture, and he's like, but I'm waiting for him to be shipped back. He's like, they're in Massachusetts right now. And I'm like, say again? I'm like, where's he located now? So I was like, how's that, right? So perfect timing. But I was able to get the Otis elevator board. So it basically goes in Luke's the clamp card for Luke's Hilt. So
Nice.
yeah, I've been after one of those for a while, and I was able to score one finally. Hopefully, well, let me not jinx myself. Nothing's been transacted yet.
Like that, like with studio scale, you kind of know where you're looking. You're looking in selection of kits.
Yeah.
So your search has been narrowed down at least to like one area of like hobby kits. But found parts, that's the whole galaxy, right? It could be anywhere.
Literally.
You could be the studs off boots, the bloody like tape decks and like washing machine parts, right? Or like
the plunger in your
toilet. And it's also inside. So I mean, this is a conversation that can go on, right? But you're right, John, you really hit the nail on the head. It's like an elevator board, like a board that operates the elevator buttons from the 70s, mind you.
Well,
right?
look at the bunker bomb inside that. What was that? A hammer drill, right?
Hammer drill.
Yeah. But inside something that's difficult to take apart, to disassemble.
Yeah.
Very difficult to disassemble. Oh,
you need someone that works on
that,
it, or it's their job to know that and to be a fan of
somebody who worked on it. Somebody who worked on it and noticed, like, hey, this looks a lot like that, because there's so many pieces. And then just like the model kits, right, where you take something, if you don't know what you're looking at, like I think the Morse Decal is a perfect example in the back of the ATSD, how it's cut down to this little bit. So you also have to have somebody who knows, like, oh, this is from a tape deck or an elevator or a car or a washing machine, but it's also cut down and manipulated because it's not the original, it's not in its original, manufactured form.
John, look at the Endor ship that we talked about, those rings on the back. As soon as I saw them, I knew what they were, only because I'm an electrician. That's
that right there.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I even remotely know what those things are is because I had my hands on them 100 million times, so... which I got to find the right size. The ones I sent you were too big. The ones
they were close. They were close.
They were close. I might just like
but they were too big. I
might just like cut them and shape them and mold them down so they fit, because I don't know I'm ever going to find that size, So, but
it's just one of those things where that you just got to either carry on with the build with something that you've scratch built yourself, or hope that something from the 70s is going to turn up.
Well, that's another thing. So not only are you checking the real life, like that wasn't exaggeration when you said, John, you're really looking throughout the real world, the planet, but you're also looking at antiquated technology that's either been destroyed or it's now moot and there was no need or purpose for it. So like, getting some of these pieces is just, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. It really is. But at the same time, it can be maddening. I mean, even the AT-AT, when we talk about the AT-AT, me and Chris were mentioning when you dropped off for a second, we're going to have Rob join us, and we're going to do a show where we just talk about the AT-AT helmet, because it's made up of all these different greeblies. Second to Boba Fett, it's one of the more complex pieces. And there's so much going on there that even then, there's a lot of like, hey, well, it's close enough, because they haven't found exactly where they pulled this one piece from or where that one piece came from. They kind of know what it is. Like you said, there's been one person who works in or specializes in a certain area where they're like, hey, this looks a lot like this piece. But then it's like, well, who manufactured it, right? I was even doing that with the Vader chest box, tracking down the original Honeywell micro switches and
coin slots,
switches and the coin slots. And it's just like, oh, geez. Yeah.
Respect to you, man. That's it's crazy. It's too much for me to get my head around. I can't hardly get my head around studio scale, let alone moving on to.
But you still know quite a few things, though. Like I'm totally in the dark when it comes to that. I have no clue.
I know whatsoever. A few Fett stuff, but that's it. But listen, guys, I'm getting phoned left, right, and center in the room. I keep having to put the mic on, and before, my battery will die, or I'll have a heart attack, or something will happen where I'm not.
Die from asbestos inhalation. Yeah.
I gotta run as well.
Thank
but
you so
thanks
much
for
for having me on.
Yeah, John.
Yeah,
It's a
all right,
pleasure.
guys.
It's been too long since we did this. We gotta do this more often.
Yeah, definitely. And
All
I'll
right.
speak to you soon, guys. Appreciate
See ya.
it.
All right, John.
See
Talk
you later
soon.
on. Bye.
I gotta run as well, man.
Yeah, that's a good spot to stop. We went 2 hours, Jason. So
Yeah, a little longer than expected, but I think it was good. Whenever we can get John on for longer than usual, it's always a good thing.
Yeah.
But
all right,
all
man.
right, man. I'll catch up with you a little later.
Yeah,
have
have
a
a
great
good
day.
day.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks for the support.
See ya.